It's named after Haddonfield, New Jersey?
Haddonfield. Yeah.
What do you mean it's named after it?
Like there's a town in New Jersey called Haddonfield, so they made a fictional Haddonfield, Illinois named after. Anyway,
Gotcha.
I digress.
Cool. Well, I guess that's as good an intro as any.
No.
This is Dead Air.
Hi.
I'm Mike Mahardy, your host. Here as always with Mary Kish, who's switching our second ever video episode.
Hey, I'm back.
It's our 29th episode. But we have Tim Turry from Capcom, returning guest. You were here a few months ago.
It was a while ago. I feel like this
Yeah.
podcast had just started.
Yeah, we were talking about Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil in general, but you've since been bumped up in the Capcom ranks. You are now...
Oh.
What are you
I'm
doing?
a associate brand manager working on Resident Evil.
Very
Yeah.
belated congrats.
Oh, well, thanks.
From us here.
And thanks for having me back.
Yeah. And then we have Dan Reichert from Giant Bomb.
Yes. How are
who's,
you?
I'm good. You are down the hall from us in the CBSI building, but
That is true.
we figured you'd bring you on because we're talking about Halloween 1 and 2. We figured this week was a good one to talk about it. And
Hey, and I've been wanting to meet Tim Turry for a while, so nice to meet you, sir.
This is
Dan-
Tim.
Yep, very nice to meet you,
Rickert?
sir. Reichert. It's Reichert.
Daniel.
Yeah, yeah.
Good to meet you, Daniel.
Yeah, yeah. Turry? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Reichert.
Yeah.
You watched Halloween 1 and 2 for the first time. We all watched it last weekend. And figured we got a bunch of different perspectives. I've seen them a few times. Tim, you've seen them a ton. Mary, you're pretty well versed in the Halloween movies from what I understand.
Oh yeah, I don't know anyone who isn't. I think that's weird if you haven't at least heard of it.
Yeah,
Come
what
on.
the-
If you
would
just
be-
saw them for the first time?
It would be weird to be on a horror podcast or help kind of get one rolling without
Yeah.
having a long history of that, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So are you making fun of me? Because
When did you first see it again? It was.
I saw the first one for the first time like 6 years ago.
Okay.
But I didn't remember. But then I went out to see you when you lived in Minneapolis
Okay.
last year, and we watched it again. That was like my first time as an adult watching it.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I was an adult 6 years ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
Kind of not aging myself. I'm doing the opposite. I'm younging myself
that's right.
by saying that.
Younging yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. So we all watched it, and I think it was a fun time. We all it was a blend of like, oh, that's where that trope came from, and oh, this is really cheesy now. And
Mhm.
even in the last year, I think they have become more dated in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun because there was honestly, the majority of the folks that we had watch it, I've always taken pleasure in showing people stuff that I care a lot about, in a very selfish way, but a lot of people hadn't seen it and a lot of people really enjoyed it. There'd be the thing where it's like, oh yeah, that's such a cliche now. And then, I don't know, the sound system that Justin has set up or whatever is just good enough that it would just pop and people would scream anyway, which was heartening to me. It was
Sure.
a reaffirmation of oh yeah, Halloween's my favorite horror movie and this is why.
Yeah.
Is it your favorite because of its importance to the genre, or in that it set all these tropes into motion and everything, or is it because if you laid them all end to end to end and you watched them all for the first time in 2016, do you think it would be better?
I think it's like a double thing. Halloween was the reason that I started watching horror, so it was just to dump out this story. It was middle school or something. I had a friend, Josh Wilsick, in middle school that was like, hey Tim, you should watch this movie. It's going to be on Turner Classics or some old channel. I don't even know if it's still around. And I'm like, okay, I'll watch it. And I remember distinctly, it was fall. It was close to Halloween. Was watching TV. My mom was sitting over there. I was laying on the couch. I fell asleep and woke up. All the lights are off. TV was still on. It was just the beginning of Halloween, the very, very beginning of it.
Oh, you
So
had-
Michael Myers going and
yeah.
we can spoil Halloween,
yeah,
right?
spoil
Yeah, he kills
probably,
his
yeah.
sister.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
Statute
It's good.
of limitations
Yeah,
is up on
yeah.
that.
Very sensitive about these kinds of things. But anyway, and so I watched it, and I made I remember making a really just terrible Swanson's breakfast sandwich and heating that up and watching all of it and just being terrified. My first real horror movie, just basically traumatized into loving it for life. And then that over the years, I realized how important it was. I realized it was a prototype for slashers. And started watching tons of slashers, but I didn't appreciate it in that moment. Then I would watch it every few years, and then it solidified how much I loved it. So,
Okay.
How traumatized were you? Can you still eat Swanson breakfast sandwiches?
No, Mary, I can't. I stopped, and that was for a confluence of reasons as well.
Oh.
They never would get totally warm in the middle.
It's a damn shame.
Just cut them in half.
Do you do the oven? You can usually do oven or microwave with these
This is
things.
middle school. I
You
didn't
have
have a
an oven?
PhD.
You couldn't
How
work
was
an
I
oven
gonna-
in 8th grade?
How was I going to make that happen? I was terrified of the oven. It was going to blow up the house.
What are you,
What are you,
Kevin
me?
McAllister with the furnace in the basement?
Didn't like going to the basement either. My dad had an old goalie mask before I even knew what Friday the 13th was all about.
Oh, okay.
Goalie mask was terrifying.
But
But
they are inherently sinister.
speaking of Friday the 13th, came out in 1980. Halloween came out in 1978. And before, there's lots of like Psycho references and some direct nods in Halloween, and there had been slashers before, but all of them were kind of this grab bag of varying quality. And like, I think Halloween goes down in history as being that prototype for slashers like Friday the 13th, like Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre had existed before in like, I think 76. And then of course Psycho, where it's like, the references are really fun, and I think you saw some of them where it's like the first-person camera perspective, where you're seeing through the eyes of the killer.
Yeah.
There is Sam Loomis. Loomis is a reference to a Psycho character, and Sam Loomis is Michael Myers' doctor. And then on top of that, I think Janet Leigh is her name, who is Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, is the actress from Psycho.
Okay.
So, and it was Jamie Lee Curtis's first film, Halloween was. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. There's all these little connections and nods, and it planted the roots for just one of the biggest subgenres of horror.
It was really interesting for me to see it the first time over the weekend, because I'm sitting here thinking like it was maybe the third horror movie I've ever seen. I've seen Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh, great.
With Killer Clowns, what
Killer
number
Clowns
was that
was probably
one? 'Cause that's a really messed up one.
That was probably the first one I ever saw, and it scared the shit out of me. The second one was probably Event Horizon, and that one scared the shit out of me. I saw Scream 3.
Okay.
And I think that's the extent to this day of all the horror movies I've seen. And now
You've
but
only seen Scream 3. That's the only Scream
that was the only one that came out while I was working at a movie theater. But I am a film studies major, so I have a degree, so I know what I'm talking about here. So.
You understand the techniques being used.
The other thing that's always interesting to me is, Daniel, like, you're a huge John Carpenter fan. You love Big Trouble in Little China. You like Escape from New York.
You had me watch The Thing. Oh, actually, The Thing is horror. You had me watch that.
Counts.
The Thing is awesome. Yeah. But I mean, Tim got me to watch that 2 years ago for the first time, and it's awesome.
It's great. But I mean, it has some like action elements in it too, and the practical effects
and
were
sci-fi
crazy.
and stuff.
And
Yeah,
Russell.
but it's a horror movie.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, I think generally in like the top 10 usually. I'd say.
I could say that when I've seen 6 of them.
you haven't seen 10.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it's in my top 10 horror movies.
So I was just curious. Do you the more you watch horror movies, the more do you want to watch them more?
I think so. Oh wait, sorry, real quick. I've seen Jason X. But
the most important Jason.
Yeah, he goes to goddamn space.
Well, there's that what is it, liquid nitrogen scene where we
talked about that.
Freezes the guy's face in liquid nitrogen,
right, and breaks like the front of his face.
Yeah,
that's
great kill.
God, what was I about to say? Oh yeah, I do like all these movies that I've seen or Tim's introduced me to. Have been a lot of fun. I like them a lot. Like, I've always been an action movie guy, but this kind of feels similar in that, like, here's a bunch of stuff that happens, violent stuff, and then at the you root for the bad guy to get killed at the end. I mean, it seems like it's basically that, right? Yeah. Except for it seems like the difference is in action movies they actually die at the end, and from what I've seen in horror movies, they just come back 6 times and then go to space.
that's the logical progression of these sagas.
You about got it.
Okay,
so good job.
I feel like I owe you in some way. I mean, he's been showing you horror movies, but you've showed me a bunch of action movies I had never seen before.
I introduced you to Terminator 2 and Face Off, and I introduced Tim to the Rocky series. So
yeah,
I think that's true. Those are pretty good ones to introduce people to. I think
we got a good circle going on.
Yeah.
So
I'll introduce both of you to romantic comedies, and the triangle will be complete.
Yeah, Mike's the quintessential piece of information for rom-coms.
Yeah,
awesome.
No, I get. Yeah, sure, I can be. Have you seen Black Christmas, incidentally?
I have not seen Black Christmas.
So we had a reader email maybe on like our 8th episode or something telling us to watch it, and it actually served as a big influence for Halloween. So Black Christmas is 1974, 4 years before Carpenter did Halloween. It's Canadian, and it's set in Montreal, the Westmount neighborhood, which I've actually been to, oddly enough. The first time I saw this movie was right after I had been there, so it was kind of a cool confluence of those things. But it actually starts off very similar to Halloween. So it's about this murderer killing people in a sorority house. And it starts off through that first-person perspective with the breathing. The one thing, though, that was tough about Black Christmas, people who listen might know this, and then Pete Brown and I talk about it. I have misophonia. I don't know if you've heard about this.
Right, you told me about this.
Yeah, it's that disorder that like certain noises can really just drive you nuts, like chewing or guttural noises. Man. So in Black Christmas, the breathing is accentuated to the point where it's like this gargly kind of like, if you've seen Hey Arnold, you know that one that Helga punches all the time? You guys didn't watch Hey Arnold?
Oh, I do remember him.
We're older than that.
Yeah, he
really?
does that.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he does.
Really nice.
Did you do some voice acting in like the mid-90s?
Only heavy breathing ones.
Okay.
Only the ones that require no actual dialogue.
Okay.
You can recognize her size in many a blockbuster film. But no, it was The intro to Black Christmas, once you get past that, I actually
Okay.
really liked it. But there's like some of those tropes.
Yeah, the call is coming from inside the house.
Ooh,
actually,
okay.
It's from that. So it's like kind of like one of the first ones where the killer was there the whole time.
Oh, that's awesome.
Inept police. That's like huge in that. Kind of violence with like a mix of comedy and a bit of sexual tension type thing. Like a lot of that stuff was there. It's a bit dry, and I think by today's standards, a lot of people would watch Black Christmas and be like, "All right, I know where this is going," and they're right. But that's because it's been done a million times since then. It was like the first.
And then like the promiscuous girl is the first one to die, from what I remember in Black Christmas. that kind of thing.
Actually, I think
In
it
Black
was
Christmas?
I think it was like the girl who wasn't adventurous at all. And they were like, "You're so lame. You're a lame duck." And then she went upstairs and got killed.
Oh, interesting.
Gosh.
She gets smoked.
But
Yeah.
I also think all the sexy ones get killed too.
Yeah.
Of course. I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah, I want to watch it again. It's I like anti-Christmas movies. I think that genre is called like Die Hard.
Anti-Christmas. I
that are
think
set
is-
during Christmas. Okay.
Yeah, but they're not about Christmas. This
Gotcha.
is very much like that.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're all deciding to stay at the sorority house over Christmas break instead of going skiing with their families or something, which then the
Okay.
killer just has free reign and whatnot. It's worth watching. It's dated, but it's cool. It's Bob Clark directed it, Canadian director, psychological. Yeah, I don't know anything else he's done, but it was a good movie. It was a good reader recommendation.
I have to check that out. It's interesting because that's another one that's centralized around a holiday.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Halloween, when it was first like in its iterations or early iterations, it was called like just the babysitter murders.
Oh, okay.
So it was like stripped of any Halloween setting at all. Which,
Halloween's a better title.
right?
Yeah.
Isn't it
much better?
It's
Babysitter murders.
it's perfect,
Are they
right?
murdering babysitters or babysitters murdering their kids?
Either way.
Yeah, that's a good
I
question.
mean, they both sound
You go
sinister.
and kill the babysitters, I think. I
Yeah.
don't.
That's Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Oh, that's
Sorry.
right.
Yeah.
That's Honey, I Murdered the Babysitter. It's
Right.
with Rick Moranis, and he's
Right,
just going on a
right.
spree.
I would watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what were your overall impressions of like 1 compared to 2? Because 2, I think, is acknowledged as going off the rails in a lot of ways.
I definitely liked 1 better. It seemed just more kind of contained and focused. And I get that 2 is like, okay, well, we did the neighborhood thing. Let's, I don't know, hospital. Like, it makes sense, being right after the first one that, Jamie Lee Curtis would be in this hospital or whatever. But yeah, if I gave the first one like a 9 or whatever, I'd say this is a solid 8. And
Okay.
the second
Yeah.
one, does that seem about fair?
It's like a sequel by the numbers, I feel like, and a lot of the creativity and like the sort of weird logic behind Michael Myers' kills, it just seems like it's kind of out the window. It seems like it seems like it could have been in any slasher from the 80s. It didn't really feel like it was in the same exact theme as the first one. It just something felt different about it, even though it was appropriate. Yeah, I think that one was it 81? I think was the sequel. Yeah.
I also like that in the first one because of the time frame that it takes place in. Like, no one knows that this is going on, that there's this guy running around killing people. So when people see him, it's just like, what the fuck is this thing? What is going on here? And then by 2, it's like it's all over the radio, it's all over the news. It's like, look out, there's a crazy guy running around. And I don't know if that affects any of the scenes necessarily, but I like the idea of like these characters are like, have no idea what's going on with this guy.
And then he just becomes a legend after that. Rest in peace, Ben Tramer, by the way.
He played Michael Myers?
No, he was the guy that got pinned between like the
Oh,
ambulance and the...
They're not concerned about that when they learn that that's just some totally
that's the
innocent
other
trick-or-treater that got horribly burnt to death.
Mary brought up like the inept police, which I love that trope. I love the police showing up and getting like they're just immediately taken out of the equation in horror movies where it's just like that false sense of security. But it just... The sheriff is just following around Donald Pleasance's character, Dr. Loomis, the entire time. Like, all right, well, if you're wrong and these kids die and we're staked out the Myers house for no good reason, then it's your ass. I'm like, well, you're the sheriff, man.
Well, yeah, why
Like,
is the most effective cop the doctor?
yeah, exactly. Why are they taking
is-
orders from him?
What does the doctor say at that one point when someone says something about death? And he's
Oh,
like, you
death-
don't
know what death is.
And then he
At the
runs
beginning-
away as the music kicks
That's
in.
right at the beginning of 2, yeah.
it's
He darts
right
back
when
into the hedge maze.
What I love about that is the punchline of that too is like right at the beginning of 2, where it's like Michael Myers' body is gone. He puts his fingers in the grass and he lifts up the blood and he's just kind of like, "What's going on out here? I've been scared after death tonight." And Loomis just looks up and goes, "You don't know what death is." And instead of it being like the really subtle piano version, it's like the boyamp, 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 boyamp,
Yeah, it's
boyamp,
the
like
synth.
super synthy. Like John Carpenter's just really into it this time.
That's not even a
Setting
good
stage.
line either. Like, of course he knows what death is.
Yeah, he
He's
is.
not
Couldn't
6.
come up you don't know pain, maybe,
Right.
or like you don't know Halloween, but death.
You don't know the film
You
series
know that.
Halloween.
Says the doctor who just shot someone 6 times and they didn't die.
Yeah.
Seven
Yeah.
times
7
in,
times.
in the recap of the first one, because there's the blooper where he accidentally unloads his 6-shooter 7 times in Michael Myers.
That's the most noticeable like continuity error in movies with
Yeah.
6-shooter guns. Like we see that it's a
Yep.
revolver. Don't shoot 7 times.
You either need to lean into it and then just have it be infinite ammo,
just a
basically.
mini, get like a Gatling gun.
Got the bandana on. You
Yeah.
saved Meryl. Whatever.
Yeah.
Shut up, Tim.
But so one interesting thing between the change of 1 and 2 is like, so 78 was Carpenter, and he wrote and directed it with Deborah Hill, who was his wife or his girlfriend
Oh,
at the time.
really?
Yeah. Her hand actually, when it's like the flashback and 6-year-old Michael Myers is reaching for like the butcher's knife.
Yeah.
That's Deborah Hill. They needed someone with small hands
Okay.
and a clown suit.
Was she a child?
Yeah, she was. Oh boy, that would be consistent with.
Maybe
some
I'm not
really-
a John Carpenter
that'd
fan
be-
anymore.
That'd be consistent with some weird dialogue with characters in Halloween 1. But and then it was like 81 where they were approached for the sequel, and I think Carpenter, it was along the lines of like, I already did that, and so they wrote and produced it. But Carpenter, between 78, he had done Escape from New York and The Fog, and then 82 was The Thing. So those are 3 of like, in like a really short like 3-4 year period, Carpenter had done like 4 of his most notable films.
Wow.
Do you like The Fog?
I have not seen The Fog.
Neither have I.
When Carpenter was playing in Berkeley or whatever, I went to see him, and they're showing clips alongside the music he was playing, which was awesome. Super cool show. I was like, I should probably watch The Fog. I know it's not regarded as being that great, but it's like if you found out there was a Metallica album you'd never listened to,
Yeah, I'd
or
listen to
a
it.
Skinner album. I don't know why I'm thinking of that.
No clue.
People watching.
A Metallica album that isn't regarded as that great.
Yeah, but
Does such a thing exist?
That Lou Reed album is great.
you're being. You're being.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, that's the thing. It's like you'd have to do your it's like this has really gone off the rails. Basically, that's what it's like. It's like
If there was a lost WrestleMania.
yes, exactly.
Yes.
It's just
Okay.
like, well, even if it's not regarded as a good one,
Right, I'd
You
watch
got to
it.
do your due diligence and go see it.
Yeah.
Or if there was like a Zooey Deschanel romantic comedy I hadn't seen.
Right, Mike.
That doesn't exist. That's not possible, Mike.
No, I've seen all of them.
I don't know if you want to establish yourself as this person.
Yeah,
just
this is
yet.
totally a
This might be
joke.
a
I hope
mistake.
people know. But I
Have
did
you
watch.
seen the Gilded Waitress menu book?
No.
What?
I'm just trying to think of a name.
Are you just
of a
trying? Are you just
rom-com.
swapping out words from Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants or something?
I don't know.
The Gilded Restaurant Menu Book.
Waitress.
What's a menu book? A menu?
Waitress is in there somewhere.
He's
used
trying
to be a
get
waiter.
The sisterhood of the traveling.
Of course,
Menu.
Halloween 3 eschewed all of the tropes from the first.
No, Halloween 2 I like becomes that kind of just like crazy kill montage. Like
Yeah.
the boiling water with the girl's
Yeah.
face. Well, he first kills the guy, just strangles him and stabs him in the back room, right?
Yes,
And then
he-
he turns up to it has a scalding setting.
Yeah.
Scalding,
for
yep.
like a
Then, like,
physical
red.
therapy bath.
Yep.
And then like the weird blood draining thing, like they all get a little
Well,
weird.
I thought about that. Someone was like, why would Michael Myers know how to do that? And they'd acknowledged in 1 when Michael Myers steals the car from Smith's Grove Sanitarium and peels out. Loomis brings that up. He's like, well, he's driving a car. Why does he know how to do that, guys? He
Right.
should be locked up all the time.
Yeah.
And someone brought up that point with the IV in Halloween 2, where it's like, why does he know how to do that? Well, I mean, he was in a hospital. He probably had his fair share of IVs stuck into him.
Do they explain the car thing? I don't remember if they
They
do.
do. So in Halloween 6, I want to say, Curse of Michael Myers.
We wait 5 movies to pay off the how can he drive a car angle? That loophole?
There was a lot of
It's like Metal
killing.
Gear 4 once you get to...
There's a lot of killing that had to be done between those. But so the idea is when Loomis is walking out of Smith's Grove and talking to that hospital director or whatever, who was like, oh, how do you learn how to drive a car? That hospital director, they decided, was like, we should bring him back. And he is like one of the leaders of a cult that helped make Michael Myers into the embodiment of evil that he is.
Okay.
Which is another weird thing. According to Halloween 1, if Michael Myers killed Judith Myers when he was 6 and was hospitalized for 15 years before he broke out, he's 21. Like, he's a 21-year-old dude. But he just, like, to me, Michael Myers, like, when I first watched it, and now when I still watch it, it's still just, like, this cipher. Like, I don't try to, like, in my mind, try to figure out what he looks like underneath the mask
They
at all.
show it, though.
They do. They show
Yeah.
it more than I think anyone remembers when...
It's at the end when he's fighting with Jamie Lee Curtis,
yeah,
right?
and she peels it off. But
Yeah.
it's just interesting because, like, obviously their goal is just to have, like, this blank slate of evil. Like, project your own feelings about what this killer is onto him. And, like, I think that worked really well. to the point where I don't even care what he looks like.
Does Jason talk? I've never seen that. I mean, outside of Jason X,
No.
he never
No,
talks.
Jason's not meant to talk.
So what separates Jason from like Michael Myers besides a hockey mask?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Jason has different motivations. I suppose when you look at the nitty gritty of the tropes, right? Like that they kill sexy teens and they're quiet killers. There's a lot. There's not as much to differentiate.
Right.
But when you look at the motivations behind those, like Michael Myers was quite like this like psycho killer right from the get-go, whereas Jason was someone who became a killer because someone harmed him or because of like the hand he was dealt.
Yeah, like I think that's exactly right. The way I've always looked at it is like Jason is like the embodiment of his mother's vengeance on the camp counselors that let him die, and like
So he died as a kid. He
died as a
he's like
kid.
a reanimated corpse or something.
Let's take a stroll through memory lane.
Okay,
Considering
yeah.
you haven't seen the original
No.
Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th, there is a killer on the loose killing teens. A bunch of camp counselors, but it's not Jason Voorhees, it's his mother.
Right.
That's actually the huge twist on it, is
Right.
that Jason was killed because the camp counselors were too busy considering having sex with one another than to watch the kids, and he drowns in the lake. So she kills all the people, and the big twist is, and this is a huge trope to this day, right? That if you're like promiscuous teen, you're going to die. That originates with Friday the 13th with the concept that sex was more important than a child's safety. So it actually had value in that film, but now it's kind of been watered down into what it is now, which is like, promiscuous sex leads to death.
And some people try to draw that back to Halloween, but Carpenter's been like, it's not about that at all. Like he's just like dismissing, like it's not about morality and sex.
He didn't
or
think
anything.
about that when he made it. Yeah.
He likes to point out how it's just like, actually, Jamie Lee Curtis is like, all these things happen to her, and she's the most like sexually repressed character and sexually frustrated.
Right,
and
right.
she's stabbing people with these long objects.
Yeah.
and,
She's also quite smart, right? Like, I always considered Halloween to be more about like how intelligent people deal with killers, whereas Friday the 13th is about a bunch of like moronic teens trying to have sex, and Jason's going after them one by one.
Yeah.
In Friday the 13th, I root for Jason because he's awesome and
Yes.
he's killing these morons that I don't give a shit about. In fact, I would say most of the characters in a Friday the 13th are deplorable characters you don't give a shit about. But in Halloween, you root for Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
smart, she's interesting, she's got a good head on her shoulders, and you want her to win. So it's like, yes, the killer aspect is a little similar, but the motivations and who you root for are quite different.
Okay.
And on top of that, Michael Myers just wants to kill his sister. Like
He's
that's-
insane.
He's
that.
obsessed with her.
He did that very. Oh wait, but then we find out
His other sister,
that's Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee
right?
Curtis
That's right.
is. We find out in the sequel that is Michael Myers' sister, and for
Right.
whatever reason, he's obsessed with killing her. And I think they try to connect it because he gets obsessed with like going down the bloodline and like finding his. I think Jane. I can't remember his niece's name. He goes after his niece, and like he just.
Do they get into those motivations at all? Because I always kind of just assumed that Michael Myers was like the embodiment of insane evil, right? Like he like doesn't give a shit about his family and he wants to kill them. Whereas like Jason had these very clear
Right.
motivations, like you guys left me to die. That's why promiscuous teens must die. It's like what's Michael's motivation?
That's where that cult stuff comes in.
It's the
right?
cult.
Part of-
It's like this weird Vaseline over the plot where it's just like cult.
yeah.
It's just like he's crazy,
So
right?
the answer is cult.
I mean, I don't know if it's about thinning out his bloodline because there's some value in the blood of the Myers family to the cult, and beyond that, I don't really know.
Well, so where was Jamie Lee Curtis? Like, do the ages work out so that she was a baby when Myers was a kid and killed the sister? Like, to Jamie Lee Curtis, who are her parents? Does she know that her parents are the Myers?
her parents are the Strodes.
Oh, right, because that's her last name, Laurie
Yeah,
Strode.
yeah.
So did she get adopted like as a little kid, or
Yes.
okay? So
I think
she
it
had
was
no
a
idea
skiing accident or something. I think they
of the
referenced-
actual Myers
of the
parents.
actual Myers. Yeah.
Okay, and she got adopted, but
Yeah.
then Jason knows because he can smell blood or whatever.
They retconned it at a certain point.
Smell his
but,
sister.
I assume. Yeah.
Yep. But anyway, I was always interested in like the hyper patient guy waiting 15 years to like just go crazy.
The
on
Pepe
it.
Le Pew of murder.
Indeed.
Okay.
The guy who like never runs but slowly gets to his
Okay.
victim.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are the creepiest scenes. Are like when she's in school and she looks out the window and he's just standing there, like no urgency. He's just, hey, I just want to let you know I'm gonna super kill you.
And
Yeah.
it's broad daylight.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And that's the
standing
thing.
outside a car, like
Yeah.
he's driving around.
Or he's
That's-
just standing by the clothesline or around a hedge. yeah, that stuff is like the stuff that's like, did I just see that?
Yeah.
I love that stuff in horror movies.
I'm assuming you haven't seen It Follows then, right?
No. Is that the one about you have sex with someone and then their ghost follows you around and eats you or something?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, you
That's
actually
it.
don't
You got
see
it.
Yeah, you nailed it. But
Got it?
there's
All right.
they play on the whole slow walking killer thing because it just slowly follows you. So if you go to like China or something, it's going to slowly follow you in real time and get to you or something, from what I understand. But the scene that you just mentioned when Jamie Lee Curtis looks out the window sort of happens in It Follows. There's one where she's in a class in college and she looks out. And it's a wide shot of a bunch of people like on the quad just playing frisbee and hanging out. But then like if you're paying attention, you see this old lady in a hospital robe, which you might not see at the first shot. And then it goes back to her and she's got a weird look on her face. And then it goes back and the lady's closer, walking toward the classroom. It's really creepy.
I just got goosebumps
Yeah.
thinking about. I need to rewatch that.
It just reminded me of someone that when we were watching the movie, one of your friends had said, "Oh, this reminds me of the It Follows scene." I was like, "Oh,
Who was
shit.
it, Mike? Who was it?
Patrick Kulikowski, I think." Bad. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know why I did that.
Capcom
That
employee.
was dumb non-joke. But maybe I should show you It Follows.
That actually does sound kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's good
Like seeing
sound-
a modern one would be good.
Also, you talking about how you've been listening to like John Carpenter's Lost Themes and stuff,
Oh,
and, like,
yeah,
and like
yeah.
Perturbator and like that sort of 80s synthwave stuff. Disaster Piece is the composer of
Okay.
It Follows, which listeners of this podcast know.
Yeah, he came on. He did Fez soundtrack.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I like the Fez soundtrack a lot.
He did a more sinister turn with It Follows. It was really good. But
Yeah.
yeah, we
Oh.
had him on the show a few months ago.
More
It's cool
sinister
talking
turn. It's a good phrase,
yeah,
Mike.
I guess so. He was one of two composers. We brought in Jason Graves too from Dead Space, Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
He did a lot of things actually. But yeah, no, I have actually always gravitated toward Friday the 13th over Halloween. I think Halloween is a better film, but Friday the 13th, I agree with Mary. I don't like the people in it that he's killing, which maybe that's why I enjoy watching the
Sure.
or she's killing. But I do think Jason has more kind of like compelling motivations than Michael does.
They're more colorful movies.
Yeah.
Like
Was Freddy a man or is he just a nightmare being?
he was
Nightmare Beat.
so Freddy was a man
Physical
who was
man. He was killed
Yeah.
by the community for being a child molester.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
he's meant to be disliked,
So he's a
which I
bad
find
dude.
it really interesting that they paint him as a comedian.
Right.
So in all the movies, he's actually painted in this comedic light. He's got a lot of like one-liners, and people
Oh.
do root for him. But at the end of the day, that dude's a child molester.
right.
So you shouldn't really root for that guy.
Yeah, maybe not so much.
But he doesn't have a corporeal, is that the word? Form?
Corporeal being.
Now
Yeah,
he
like
is.
in the
Like a
movies.
mortal
Wait, he
coil.
became a real man?
So they
again?
basically like killed him, and when they did that, his being basically was like, "I'll haunt your children in their dreams."
Right,
yeah.
So it was kind of like now he is a ghost, which is many ways what Jason is now. So the everything to and beyond doesn't really make sense with Friday the 13th, because the point was that the killer was his mother. So everything after that, Jason is just now this undead dude that can't be killed, that can do
Right.
surreal things like go into space.
But if he died when he was a little kid, I know we're going off track from Halloween.
No, we're
but
not.
why is he a giant man now? Like, did he
like-
grow in the grave? Like, what happened
at
there?
at the end of
Oh wait, Jason?
Jason,
Yeah,
if he was a
Freddy.
kid when he drowned,
at the end
he's
of
like 9 feet tall.
At the end of Friday the 13th, I think it's assumed that like he's risen and like continues his life.
Wait, assumed or like did they show like a hand bursting out of a grave or something?
Well, he comes out from the bottom of the lake
Yeah, he
and kills
drowned.
the final girl from Friday the 13th.
at the end of the
So-
first
That's
one.
right.
At the end of the first
Okay.
one, but it's like she dreamt it, maybe, but it happened anyway.
He's got like a sandy cheeks kind of bubble going on down at the bottom of the lake.
yeah.
What?
Sandy cheeks.
It's
from
a
SpongeBob the
SpongeBob
squirrel.
thing.
Oh.
Anyway,
God damn
he
it.
does like continue.
I'm old.
He like continues growing up, but like the actual events of him coming out of the lake and attacking her are like it's fuzzy because it's kind of painted as her remembering it. So how accurately did she remember it? Was he actually fully grown when he came? I mean, obviously,
Right. They take creative liberties
Yeah,
at that
okay.
point. Also, like with his form, right? Like I think in the next one, in 2, he kind of looks like a person who had been drowned, like a fully grown man that had drowned. Like his face is like all
Yeah.
Right.
Blotchy
wrinkly
and,
and stuff,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a drowned.
I've seen those
victim.
pictures, yeah.
Yeah. So like that's pretty weird. But then he takes more forms eventually, where he kind of
Mm-hmm.
just looks like a zombie man. I think he's at this point, he is a zombie man.
yeah.
He has been reborn, and you shouldn't really think about it much
Okay.
more than
No,
that.
that's
All right.
At
That's
Let's
accurate.
just drop
I
it.
can turn that off. Yeah.
you could have a
yeah.
whole
Let's move on.
podcast
Yeah.
about.
I'd like to move on. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
yeah, I don't know. Halloween 2 especially. I mean, it was always just weird. I don't think Halloween 2 feels as lived in. Maybe it's because that the hospital just seems vacant the whole time.
It's
Yeah.
oddly quiet.
There's
that
like
one-
3 nurses and a bunch of babies.
Yeah, and there's the one nurse who just stands in that one place all the time waiting for the call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to work a walkie-talkie.
And what was it? Actually, speaking of inept police, really quickly, I
Oh.
meant to say this earlier. I mean, in that movie, the guy
Oh,
guarding
yeah.
the hospital, but also really quick tangent once more. Sorry. In Stranger Things, I think they set it up to make you think that the police chief is going to be inept because he's like 9 times out of 10, it's just the kid went to stay at a friend's house or something.
right.
And then she's like, "What about that one other time?" But then he becomes a pretty cool character, I think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, he
anyway,
was.
what happened with the guard at the hospital? He just walked right through the security cameras.
He looked in
didn't
the
he, and killed him?
dumpster and found blood, and I don't know if they show it, but like you see him on a hook or something later on, right? The Dr. Robotnik looking guard.
he got a hammer to the head.
Oh yeah,
The
he goes
claw
into
with
the
hammer.
storage
Right.
room, and
Yeah.
then that's when
That's right.
And then the other cop, like after Michael Myers walks through the plate glass door, which is an awesome
Yes.
scene, and then super Terminator-y, and then they gun him down, and then it's the other cop who's just like, I'm gonna totally check this guy out and look at him and stuff, and then he gets his throat slit. But
Right.
the rumors, some of the rumors about the next Halloween movie, which is gonna be Carpenter again at the
Oh,
helm.
really?
Yeah, he's coming back.
Reboot,
Holy
or-
shit!
No, it's good. The rumor is that it is connected, like picking up some characters from like Halloween 2, like maybe one of the deputies that lived becomes sheriff.
Okay.
But those are the rumors. Yeah, he's coming back.
Wow. So yeah, does it follow the Rob Zombie ones?
It sounds like I think that they're gonna ignore the Rob Zombie one.
So was the zombie one? The first one was like a reboot to the first one. Was the second zombie one a reboot of or a redo of two?
It was just a sequel to his movie.
So it was just his own thing.
It's so forgettable. I
Really?
watched it. I just those movies did nothing for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw one of them. I think it
Yeah.
might have been just the reboot or the sequel or whatever
Yeah.
it was. The first one he did.
Jason A. Stryker makes a claim that there is a remix of the first zombie Halloween movie that is
Good.
not just better, but like worth watching on its own
A
merit.
remix how like certain scenes cut and whatnot. Like
He
a
said the
director's cut?
studio cut a bunch of stuff, and like Zombie's original cut was actually really good. Like Jason, I've heard him defend
Oh.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I should check that out.
Yeah, for those listening, Jason's over at Giant Bomb, but he's a big Friday the 13th
Yes.
fan.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
a horror fan, but Friday the 13th is the one I think of when I think of Jason.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
he's got his like apartment is like littered with Friday the 13th stuff, including
Yeah.
like weird memorabilia, like Camp Crystal Lake, actual lake
Yeah.
water, stuff like to that degree.
Which is
Yeah.
awesome.
It's very impressive. I'm very jealous. I have
No
a
kidding.
giant Jason Voorhees statue that's like 3 feet that I really enjoy. You can replace the machete that's in his hand.
Oh man,
Nice.
I have one of them, but it's not quite as big. But you can take his mask off and stuff. I love that stuff.
I can take off, the
Oh, you can?
mask. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a zombie water
Yep.
zombie
Yep, that's
style. Yeah, here we are again.
Yeah, it
always comes back to water
Here's
zombies.
the other thing. This is an interesting thing to talk about with Halloween, though. Like, even though Halloween was the prototype and Michael Myers kind of kicked off the slasher genre, like Jason is far and away more iconic. When people go to like the famous movie monsters, like
Yeah.
slashers of the '80s, like you go to Friday the 13th because one, like, so it was Halloween 1 in '78, then Halloween 2 in '81, and then it wasn't until I think '86 that Michael Myers came back in Curse of Michael Myers because he took actually Return of Michael Myers because he took a break on 3. No Michael Myers except for like on a TV, someone's watching it. So I mean, Friday the 13th was just like soaking up all that slasher.
Yeah.
Wasn't
money.
Nightmare on Elm Street around that same
It
time
was.
period?
It
Yeah.
was, but I think that Jason's just a little bit more close to that like
Huh.
standard stock slasher villain.
I feel like growing up as someone who didn't watch them, growing up in like the late 80s, early 90s, I always heard of Jason and Freddy being the big horror icons. Like I was familiar with Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Like I'd seen The Mask and I knew he was from some horror movie, but I had no idea the order or which one came first. I just thought Freddy and Jason are the ones I see everywhere. So
Yeah, and I always like. Sounds stupid, but when I heard Michael Myers, I just thought the actor because I watched like Austin
Right.
Powers.
Right.
But I think Halloween, like you were saying, came around at that formative time. But then it was established by the time Jason and Freddy rolled around. And I think, yeah, like you said, they kind of soaked up the fame that Michael might have, Michael or even like that Canadian Black Christmas had kind of established.
Yeah.
It's true, but unlike Black Christmas, I really think that the original Halloween stands the test of time. And that's something that a lot of movies that maybe establish a genre can't do. But to this day, if you show Halloween to someone for the first time, they're probably going to be pretty cool with it. They're not going to leave the movie saying, well, that was garbage. I knew exactly
Right.
what was going to happen. You didn't. It still surprises you. It's just, it's a good movie on its own, but then it also established a genre.
Yeah.
yeah, I thought it was great. It almost kind of reminded me in a weird way of Jaws.
Oh, sure.
In that there's so much tension just building up. Like, something bad is happening. People are going to die. But I mean, you don't see Jaws until like well into the movie. Like I know you see Michael Myers a lot in the early parts, but shit doesn't start hitting the fan
Right.
until like the last
It's a
act.
slow
I would
build.
say,
Yeah,
that's
a good point, and I think that the Jaws comparison is apt too because of the music.
Oh, yeah.
Carpenter's
Yeah.
The classic Halloween theme or the stalking music, like all of it. And the Jaws theme is so iconic, and there's some connective tissue between like the stalking music from Halloween and the Jaws theme, like so it's like it's building that tension before shit hits the fan, like you said.
It's such an effective like storytelling method that reminds me of Dracula, the original one, Bram Stoker. You don't actually meet Dracula for most of it. It's I forget the main character's name, is going up the hill in the wagon toward the
Nosferatu.
castle. Yeah, and then like he's hearing stories from all the
Right.
village people
Harker?
for most of it. Yeah. And then like by the time you meet him, it's been built up so
Yeah.
well. But yeah, maybe the reason that they age a little bit every time I see him is the dialogue. I mean, it's just the product of these teenage, supposed to be Illinois girls, but it's clearly there's palm trees every once in a while.
Yeah,
palm
it
bushes
was,
wherever it's LA somewhere in the valley.
South Pasadena.
Okay, yeah, so like pretty posh area
Yep.
of LA. But yeah, I think like the one girl who's saying like totally every time when it doesn't make sense.
Oh yeah,
Like just as often as I might say, yeah.
Yep.
She just says totally.
nonstop.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that dialogue was written by Carpenter and Hill, who weren't adolescents at that time.
Well, she was a kid.
with her mini hands.
It's not weird. All the Goo Goos and Gagas in there. It's Oh, I also want to point out that so Halloween came out in '78. Budget was just around $300,000. Box office was $70 million,
Jesus
which in
Christ.
2016 equivalent is $260 million. 4 weeks of production. That's like the shoot took 4 weeks.
That sounds like a Blair Witch level of budget to return.
I think that's also why you see so many people trying to do what it's done, like Blair Witch, or like a
Paranormal
million
Activity.
slasher styles, and that's because that cheap production can result in such a blockbuster hit that you end up seeing all these duplicates or
Yeah.
these attempts to do what it had done.
Yeah. According to this, Halloween 2 had 2.5 million budget.
Yep.
According to like you said, that original 320K. I don't see the actual box office.
The box office I found was 25 million to the budget of 2.5, and like
Still a pretty sizable.
That's good.
I try to imagine where that budget went with Halloween 2. There's a car crash. There's an
explosions.
explosion.
I mean, the setting.
Yes.
I think
The whole ending in the operating room where they're turning up the ether and the oxygen and stuff, and it blows up. They had a burn suit. They had some more, but still, some of it seems so low key.
Jamie Lee Curtis probably asked for $1 million
It's true.
for her part.
yeah.
And Donald Pleasance, who's Loomis, who was always taking. Oh, I also read that other people that were approached to play his doctor, Dr. Loomis, was Peter Cushing, so Grand Moff Tarkin from Star Wars,
Yeah.
and also Christopher Lee, so Dracula.
Oh,
going back to
interesting.
Dracula, yeah.
Christopher Lee just died like last year.
It was
Saruman
recent.
as well.
He mentioned it, like turning down Donald Pleasance's, or turning down Dr. Loomis as being like one of the bigger mistakes of his career.
We did a Wicker Man episode a couple weeks ago. He was the bad dude in the original Wicker Man.
That's right.
The Scottish one.
so. Loomis totally dies at the end of 2, right? Because he's right there when that explosion
Donald
happens.
Pleasance comes back and he stars alongside Paul Rudd in Halloween 6.
As the same
Versus
guy.
Michael Myers, you bet.
He is at the
Six is back.
epicenter of an explosion.
6 is back, man.
Like,
Filling up those gaps.
I kind of get how like Michael Myers like okay whatever they retcon stuff and now he's a supernatural evil whatever he can't die, but he's just a little bald doctor like he can't survive explosions.
He's Blofeld, man. I mean,
Oh right.
he comes back. He can't go away like that. Not that easy.
Wow.
Yeah, those movies. I'll keep watching them, especially one like every year at least around Halloween.
It's up there. Like top 5, top 3 for me.
We should watch Black Christmas and The Fog.
Yeah.
And you should watch like It Follows, and then after you've watched like maybe 20 horror movies, you should watch Cabin in the Woods.
I saw that.
Oh, you saw that.
Actually, yeah, you told me to watch that, Tim.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, I like that a lot.
But it had
And-
no context for you. How would
But
you
I saw
know
what they
whether or
were
not you
doing.
enjoyed it?
Yeah.
I knew enough through osmosis that like when they got to the end and all that stuff was going on, I was like, oh, that's a cool thing that they're doing
Yeah.
here, even without all of that
Horror
knowledge or
background.
whatever.
Sure.
Also worth mentioning, just since this is a GameSpot podcast, that I haven't played it yet, but the Dead by Daylight Halloween DLC that came out, I really want to check that out.
Sure. Yeah, I think we were planning on doing something with that. It's a fun game. It's kind of janky in a few ways, but
Yeah.
it's pretty fun. I can't wait for the Friday the 13th game either.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you guys have seen the latest trailer, there's some really brutal finishing moves because you are Jason and you can kill these camp counselors, and they're pretty slow. So it's like putting someone into a fire over time, or
It's like unflinching.
Yeah, it's pretty aggressive.
Because they were all mocap by like Kane Hodder, who was like the iconic Jason actor.
Oh, cool.
And then there's also another one called Last Year, which is like another asymmetrical horror game. Like these are all like dream horror games that I always wanted for multiplayer.
I think they were always like technically limited because a lot of these things, you don't just want to be a counselor avoiding him, you want to be the killer. But to just straight up kill AI all the time is probably quite dull. So it required asymmetrical multiplayer, which is something that's really started to become popularized and is more technically feasible right now. So
there's a couple horror games on the horizon. I mean, actually not many. I think of Outlast 2 and that's about it.
That's
Can you
like,
think of anything?
you know, I'm really trying to really dig deep and try to think of a single other big horror game. That
I don't think there were any, not for years at least. No.
Oh man. Routine finally got.
Routine looks really good. They just released their new trailer. Have you guys seen that?
I did see that. I've been following that game
You're
for
on
like
a
5 years.
spaceship. Some shit's going down. It looks really good.
Oh.
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil 7. Thank you, Mary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Resident Evil
Right,
7.
Right, here comes the plug.
That's right. Yeah. But I mean, it is connected to the conversation of Halloween. Like, I feel like, you're running from Nemesis throughout all of Resident Evil 3. I think that's a mechanic that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for like the persistent, killer from slasher movies. We released some gameplay clips of Resident Evil 7 online. One of them shows Jack Baker, player taking him down, and you think you got him, and you turn around and he's getting back up, and that's something that I feel like wouldn't exist in horror as broadly if it wasn't for something like Halloween. So that line is connected there. Resident Evil 6 or Resident Evil 6, a game I like. Resident Evil 7, January 24th, coming out next year. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. Anyway, that is all the time we have today. Dan, thanks so much for coming on for the first time.
Anytime.
And we'll keep feeding you horror movies so you can come on again.
Yes.
I'd like to. I mean, I really, really enjoyed those movies. That was a great time. So it'd be fun. I'm up for more.
You have a fresh perspective. So.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. And Tim Turry, thanks for coming on again. We'll try to get you on more often as well.
Always a pleasure.
Mary, thanks for switching, as usual, being co-host. As usual, email us, deadair@GameSpot, if you have questions, comments, concerns, suggestions for movies to watch, games to play, and we'll do our best to follow up on those. And go to iTunes, review us if you feel like it. Again, if you give us anything less than 5 stars, don't bother. Just kidding. But anyway, that is all the time we have for this week, so we'll see you next week.
Squinty eye.
The squintiest.